You know, I've said it in past videos, and I'll say it again. Sprint hasn't rolled out their 4G LTE network yet, but they're wasting no time in getting some hot LTE smartphones out on the market. I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and I've got two of those in my hands. One is the HTC EVO 4G LTE, coming soon, delayed due to a customs issue at the border. And then you have the Samsung Galaxy Nexus over here. It's available now at Sprint and online at Sprint.com. Both are $200, both are hot Android phones, and both pack 4G LTE connectivity. Which one's the best? We're going to find out in the full dogfight, which starts right now. Sprint's wasting no time in getting their 4G LTE devices to market, or at least they're trying to get them to market. In the case of the EVO 4G LTE, obviously it's dealing with some issues at customs if you've been following the news. These are two of Sprint's hottest 4G LTE devices, the HTC EVO 4G LTE, coming soon for $199.99 once it gets past the customs blockade as a result of the patent dispute, and then the Samsung Galaxy Nexus, or Google Galaxy Nexus, depending on what you want to call it, available now at Sprint for $199.99. So both devices are $200, both are high-end smartphones. The question is, which one do you go with? Well, we'll get into that in the review, my friends, but first, with the dogfight rather. But first, some love to Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up with phones like this, like the EVO 4G LTE, like the Galaxy Nexus, which actually some of these are coming in later this month or early next month, so be on the lookout for those in the One Paw Bandit game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, all that good stuff. So when you walk out the door, you're good to go. You got your settings set up, your Gmail account's ready to go, your web browsing, all set up at Best Buy Mobile. So two pretty cool devices, devices that are a little bit different though in both look and feel, and then in terms of software as well. So we'll start with the EVO 4G LTE. This is actually one of HTC's newest devices. It comes off the kind of the HTC One line of devices. It's not called a One, but it's basically a 1X with some improvements to really make the device a lot better. So you've got this bad boy, 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 processor. Throw what you thought about the S3 out the window because the S4 is a huge improvement, and if you stick around for part two, we'll talk a little bit about speed tests and things like that to show you how much different the S4 is as opposed to the S3. So 1.5 gigahertz dual-core S4 CPU. It's got a 4.7-inch true HD display, 720p display here, 4.7 inches. It's got a nice design. It's flat. You know, the HTC One X, for me personally, love the specs, don't care for the design. The polycarbonate's nice, but I don't like the way it's curved. It kind of looks like a toy to me, whereas with this, I like the industrial look and feel. Obviously very subjective, totally going to depend on what you like, but I think they did a good job designing this and making it a little bit different. I like the metal accents on the side, love the red. Of course, it has a kickstand and traditional EVO 4G LTE, or I should say EVO product line style. And then it's got the ring around the camera as well. Now this comes off to reveal a micro SIM card, or micro SD card slot rather. Too many micro things, but you can see there you got your micro SD card slot, and then you have a non-removable 2,000 milliamp hour battery. Now considering the fact that the HTC One X comes with a 1,800 milliamp hour battery, that's where this thing improves. It kicks in a bigger battery, 2,000 milliamp hour battery here, and even though it's non-removable, still a pretty decent size. I'd like to see things start at 2,000 milliamps if they're going to be non-removable. So good job there. Got a kickstand, loving the design, and it has 4G LTE capability. So when Sprint gets 4G LTE in their respective markets, you'll be able to take advantage of it. Then you have the Galaxy Nexus over here, 1.2 gigahertz dual-core TI OMAP processor. It's got a 4.65-inch HD display with the 720p as well. And then you have PenTile technology on this display. So PenTile, one of those things that's talked about over and over again. It's coming to the Galaxy S3. It's been on a lot of the Galaxy devices, obviously been on the Galaxy Nexus, and some of Motorola's recent creations as well. It's really a love-hate thing. PenTile, you know, when you do have this device turned off, when it's off camera, you obviously not really see it right now, but when it's off camera and the brightness is set to a moderate level, you can see a little bit of grain. You know, it looks a little bit like parchment paper as opposed to this one where it is a clear image. When you hold these in normal brightness side by side, there's a noticeable difference between the display on the EVO 4G LTE and on the Galaxy Nexus. So that's something to keep in mind. The display is obviously a little bit smaller, but where you see the difference here, in addition to the 1,850 milliamp hour battery, so a little bit smaller, is software. Both pack Ice Cream Sandwich. This one packs Android 4.0 with HTC Sense version 4. This packs a stock build of Android 4.0, 4.0.4. So it's got a nice up-to-date version of Ice Cream Sandwich, but it's a stock build minus a few Sprint applications. So you can see here, it looks just like the typical Galaxy Nexus that you've seen on Verizon, and of course the unlocked GSM variant that we had in the offices for a period of time. Now out of the box, you do get some Sprint stuff, or I should say some Google stuff out of the box. Google Shopper, Google Wallet pre-installed. Everything else you see on here is stuff I've installed during my testing. So you do get those. NFC support built in. Google Wallet, nice to see that out of the box. And of course, like I said, Google Shopper as well. Over here, you'll see the Sense look and feel here. Now, Sense 4.0 been refined and looks a lot different than previous versions of Sense. So if you're coming from maybe the Resound or the EVO 4G, you're not really a huge fan of Sense, one of the past iterations, take a look at this because they've really stripped it down and made it a much better operating system. I love the transition effects. I love that they still have the carousel effect from side to side, but you can't spin it too much and do that whole carousel rotation that a lot of people hated. They've kind of stripped out the unnecessary stuff, left in the goodies, which is something that I like. So obviously you can see the settings here a little bit different. I'm going to scroll down through here so you can take a look at the settings menu as opposed to stock ice cream sandwich, and you can see what they look like here. So it's a much cleaner build. The fonts look nice. It looks good. It's nice and fast. And you'll notice some changes as well with things like recent applications. You can see how they look different from stock ice cream sandwich versus Sense 4 running a top ice cream sandwich. So I can easily access and remove those just like I can on stock ice cream sandwich. But some differences there, and then of course some differences in the way things are set up. Obviously when you come in here you have a shortcut up to top of both to the Play Store, but then you'll see some additional shortcuts on the HTC devices that are running Sense 4. You've got search, Play Store, and then menu, and I love the fact that they've added text below these so you can easily see what it is, because I think a lot of people are going to go and see 3 dots and they're going to be like, what the heck is this? What are 3 dots? Whereas here you can say, oh, it's the menu, and easily access it that way. You get the Play Store shortcut up here. You'll also notice that on the Galaxy Nexus, your widgets are grouped in with your apps. Then once you scroll over to all of your apps, you easily scroll again, and it throws you right into the widgets on the Galaxy Nexus. Over here, to access those, you can come back out and then come back in, which actually I didn't need to do that. But we're going to pretend like I needed to for camera purposes. Go to Personalize, and you get a lot of different personalization options. So I think, with both of these devices, it's going to depend on what appeals to you. If you're somebody like me, you're like, yeah, I root every now and again. Not really my thing. I'm not a huge rooter. I like to have a device that works out of the box and works well. I think this is a great option because you get a ton of personalization here from HTC. You don't have to tweak it and mod it and root it. Then you have the Android purist, that Android diehard that just loves to do that. They love spending their time rooting, finding cool apps, cool widgets, things like that. The Galaxy Nexus is going to be your device just because you have the ability to customize so much more. So over here, personalization out of the box, you get to change the scene, the skin, the wallpaper, the lock screen style, and the home screen as well. The shortcuts actually correspond to what's down here in the dock. So you'll notice when I turn it off and back on, and you see the lock screen, obviously those correspond to what's down in the bottom. So that is a little bit of a change from previous versions of HTC Sense. So you got that, and then over here you've got your 5, including the App Store, you got your 5 shortcuts here, which can of course be modified and changed around. If you don't want messaging in there, for example, you can remove it. The biggest difference you'll notice on screen buttons here, so when I turn the display off, it's gone, and then of course just to show you what the lock screen looks like as well. One of my favorite things about Ice Cream Sandwich, the fact that you can access the notifications bar from the lock screen. You don't have to actually open it up. So if you get a text message, you can easily scroll down without having to unlock it, which is a really nice little touch. But on-screen buttons here, whereas you have physical buttons down at the bottom, capacitive buttons on the EVO 4G LTE. Let's take a look at the keyboard on both of these devices. Pardon me while I pull this out just to make sure that no personal message, because I've been testing this device as my personal unit. So there we go. So we're going to messages here and take a look on both of these devices just to show you what they look like and how different they are. Now, first thing I will say, one of my favorite on-screen keyboards, I have a couple of favorites. Of course, the iPhone keyboard works pretty well, the iOS keyboard, but I love the Ice Cream Sandwich keyboard. Absolutely fantastic. A huge improvement over the stock gingerbread keyboard, and in my opinion, works a little bit better than the Sense keyboard. The Sense keyboard's been improved, and of course you have a bigger display over here, but it still needs a little bit of work. I don't really care for the arrow buttons at the bottom, but you can see transition effects are nice and fast. On both of these devices, you see a little bit of a lag on the Galaxy Nexus, but I've been told that that's because of Ice Cream Sandwich, not because of the device itself. We can say the Quick Brown Fox is... what's Quick Brown Fox in the mood for today? Quick Brown Fox wants some chocolate. So obviously a little bit harder to type on. Also probably the fact that I'm just bad typing on camera. It's just not my thing. For whatever reason, I struggle with that. And then, of course, the thing I don't like about Ice Cream Sandwich, you can't easily change the keyboard by pressing and holding within the text anymore. You have to go up here to Input Method, click on Input Method, and you can see the different options that I have. Swipe pre-installed, Google Voice Typing, and more. So I can access those. And, of course, there are always third-party keyboards you can download. You can actually download a very similar Ice Cream Sandwich keyboard from Google Play and then of course Swift key and some of the other options like that. But I absolutely love this one. The quick brown fox is hungry for some fish. Quick brown fox is hungry for some fish. Very easy to type on. The autocorrect is fantastic. The keys for me personally, with my typing style, seem to work relatively well. Sense is a decent keyboard and the display is a little bit bigger over here, so if you're coming from a device with a physical keyboard, this may be a better option. In landscape mode, you can really see the real estate there. It's a nice keyboard on both fronts, but slight edge to the Galaxy Nexus's stock ice cream sandwich keyboard. Let's take a look at the browser. I'm running both of these on Wi-Fi, actually for one major reason, because this Galaxy Nexus isn't activated. You know how much I hate to run video reviews or dogfights on Wi-Fi. I think that's like reviewing a car, doing a dogfight with a car and not comparing the engines. So unfortunately, in the case of this one's not activated, so I'm running both off of Wi-Fi for the purposes of this dogfight. We'll start at phonedog.com on both of these, and also because Sprint's 3G has been terrible as of late, so it's kind of frustrating when you do stuff like this. You're browsing the web or you're doing speed tests, they just take so darn long. So we'll load up PhoneDog on both so you can see the web browsing capabilities. I don't want to download anything, I just want to go to PhoneDog. phonedog.com. So again, here's where, even though it's a little bit of a display difference, 4.65 inches, 4.7, you get a higher quality HD display over here without the PenTile. The colors look better, and the camera may not do this justice, but it looks absolutely fantastic on the HTC EVO 4G LTE. Try to say that 3 times fast on camera after dealing with all the EVOs that we've seen. Then you have the Galaxy Nexus over here. Still a great display, don't get me wrong, and I like the curved nature of this device, so it's a little bit easier if you're on the phone for long periods of time. It's got that typical Samsung look and feel over here. The power button on the right side, your volume rocker over on the left, charging port, and then your 3.5mm headphone jack at the bottom. It's got a Samsung look and feel to it. It's got that plasticky feel, which you may love, you may hate. The upside, when you drop it, it's not going to damage it as much. The downside, it's plastic. Whereas over here, industrial, nice looking, you may stand more of a risk of damaging it if you drop it. So obviously, stock ice cream sandwich here, easy access to your tabs. So I can see PhoneDog right there, and then I can go through here and see my shortcuts as well. So I have the same menu option over here as well. But then because I have a slightly larger display, first of all, pinch to zoom, very decent on both of these devices, but because of the slightly larger display, I think the EVO 4G LTE is going to be a great device for a lot of people that, browse the web, they watch music videos, they check out the YouTube stuff, check out stuff on the YouTubes, and do things like that where they're taking advantage of a larger screen. This is still very pocketable, it's got a bigger battery, so I think, the combination of that's going to be great for those people that are always checking things out, looking at maps. You will notice a difference, even how slight it may be, you'll notice a difference with a 4.7-inch display as opposed to the 4.65, at least I have. So, PhoneDog loaded on both, pinch to zoom, nice and responsive. Over here, we get to the top and we can go down to tabs. At the bottom, I get a nice preview of where I left off, and then I can go up here, yeah, we know, PCS, login, I can easily go back to PhoneDog. So again, portrait to landscape transitions, nice and fast, and then you can, of course, use the kickstand if you're doing something like watching a movie, or browsing the web where you want to leave it down and just kind of scroll back and forth that way. Not really my way of browsing the web, but hey, to each their own. Micro USB charging port on the right side over here. You've got your volume rocker on the, on the left, volume rocker on the right, 3.5mm headphone jack up top, power button up top, and my favorite, a physical camera button, which is going to come in really handy in part 2 when we talk about all the cool camera features that the EVO 4G LTE and the Galaxy Nexus have. So stay tuned for part 2.